Behind every great rock band of the 70s, there existed a hidden and dark world, that of the groupies. These women, with their free spirit and love for music, became a fundamental part of the explosive world of rock. Although they shared stages and moments with icons like Led Zeppelin and David Bowie, their personal stories rarely made the headlines. More than just followers, they were the soul of the tours, living unique experiences, often in an environment of partying and sexual closeness with the artists. Let's uncover their untold tales. Number 1. Tura Satan. Tura Satan, originally named Tura Luna Pasquale Yamaguchi, was born in Hokkaido, Japan. Her father was a Japanese silent film actor with Filipino heritage, while her mother, from a diverse background that included Native American, Cheyenne, and Ulster Scots roots, worked as a circus performer. After World War II, Tura and her family faced difficulties and were held at the Manzanar internment camp in Lone Pine, California. Later, they moved to Chicago to start anew. Tura Satan, a trailblazing figure in the world of rock and roll groupies, emerged as a notable name during the 1950s. Born in Japan but raised in Chicago, Satana's journey into the music scene began with a background in nude modeling and exotic dancing. Her unique routines, which included dancing and stripping alongside a Buddha statue, caught the attention of none other than the legendary Elvis Presley. Satana's connection with Elvis reportedly led to a passionate relationship. She described him as a considerate lover, portraying him as an old-fashioned Southern gentleman. Rumors even circulated that Elvis proposed marriage to her, although she declined. Intriguingly, when Elvis later married Priscilla Presley, it's alleged that he encouraged Priscilla to adopt some of Satana's iconic styles, such as the beehive and ponytail hairstyle, as well as thick eye makeup. However, Satana's life wasn't solely defined by her association with Elvis. She also became involved with former baseball superstar Joe DiMaggio following his turbulent marriage to Marilyn Monroe. Not just that, she delved into the world of cinema and gained recognition by starring in the 1965 cult classic B-movie, Faster, Pussycat, Kill, Kill. Despite her connections with rock and roll royalty and her ventures into acting, Satana's departure from this world in 2011 at the age of 72 went largely unnoticed by the masses. She succumbed to heart failure while in a Reno, Nevada hospital, marking the end of a life entwined with legends like Elvis and DiMaggio. Satana's story is one of striking contrasts, from her beginnings in nude modeling and exotic dancing to her entanglements with music and sports icons. Her influence on fashion and style, especially in shaping Elvis Presley's spouse's appearance, adds an intriguing layer to her legacy. Despite not receiving widespread recognition, her impact on the cultural landscape of the 50s and 60s, alongside her association with famed personalities, cements her place in the annals of music history. Number 2. Miss Sandra. Miss Sandra, also known as Sandra Liano, played a significant role as a member of the GTOs, a distinctive group associated with the influential musician Frank Zappa. Born on January 18, 1949 in San Pedro, California, Sandra embarked on a notable yet relatively short journey in the music world. Her introduction to music began when she joined the GTOs, a collective of women linked to the vibrant Los Angeles music scene of the late 60s and early 70s. Through her affiliation with the GTOs, Sandra crossed paths with Frank Zappa, and her life intersected with that of Miss Christine at the Insomniac coffee shop in Hermosa Beach. During her tenure with the GTOs, Sandra experienced various twists and turns. She developed a romantic relationship with Cal Schenkel, who served as Frank Zappa's official artist-in-residence. This relationship led to the birth of their daughter, Raven. However, after the disbandment of the GTOs, Sandra and Schenkel went their separate ways. Her journey continued when she met and married Bradley Harris, with whom she had 3 children. Sandra's adventurous spirit took her to Italy for a period, expanding her horizons beyond the music scene. In the world of music, she made a cameo appearance on Frank Zappa's album Zoot Allures, contributing to the song Disco Boy under the pseudonym Sharky Barker. Sadly, Sandra Liano's life was tragically cut short by ovarian cancer, leading to her passing in 1991 at the age of 42 in Albion, California. Despite her relatively brief time in the music scene and the GTOs, her contributions to that era, as well as her connections within Frank Zappa's circle, remain an intriguing part of the vibrant history of the Los Angeles music scene during that dynamic period. Number 3. Cynthia Al Brittain. Cynthia Al Brittain, who was born in Chicago, had an interesting journey that started when she was a shy young girl trying to connect with the opposite sex. In the late 1960s, she got into the free love and rock music scene. She went to the University of Illinois Chicago, and during college, her art class gave an assignment to make a plaster cast of something that keeps its shape. Here's where things got unique. Cynthia had an idea to cast male private parts. She found a dental mold-making stuff called alginate that worked well for this purpose. The first famous person to agree with her idea was Jimi Hendrix. He was the first among many celebs who participated in this unusual art project. So she basically made casts of the private parts of famous people. It was a weird but attention-grabbing thing, and soon more celebs joined in. This made her casts kind of a unique symbol in that time's cultural scene. Cynthia Al Brittain gained fame for an audacious proposal she made at a Jimi Hendrix concert in 1968. Armed with dental molding compound and unwavering determination, she boldly approached the iconic guitarist with an extraordinary request to make plaster replicas of rock stars' private body parts. This artistic venture led her to create casts of the intimate anatomies of numerous renowned rock icons from the late 60s to the 1980s. Cynthia's subjects ranged from members of revered bands like the MC5, the Dead Kennedys, and Journey. She ensured her subjects were inspired while crafting lifelike plaster casts of their most personal areas. These distinctive creations weren't confined to secrecy. Cynthia showcased her plaster casts in documentary and gallery exhibitions, establishing herself as a daring and unique artist. Following a great career capturing the more private aspects of rock stars, Cynthia Al Brittain passed away in April 2022 in her hometown of Chicago. While details about her illness remained undisclosed to the public, her unconventional artistry and connection with the elite in the world of rock and roll left an enduring imprint on the history of music. Number 4. Cleo Odd. Cleo Odd was a significant figure in the rock and roll scene of the late 60s and 70s, particularly renowned as a super groupie during the peak of the rock era. Her involvement in the world of music began during the height of rock and roll's influence when a select few women were known as super groupies, capturing the attention and hearts of some of the most prominent rock stars. Odd's impact was so profound that she was featured prominently on an LP released in 1969, appropriately titled The Groupies, reflecting her influential status within the rock and roll world. One of her most publicized relationships was with Keith Emerson, a member of the band Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Their love affair garnered considerable attention, although it ended with an unfulfilled engagement. However, Cleo Odd's life took a notable turn away from the limelight of the rock scene. Transitioning from the world of rock and roll, she ventured into the drug trade and eventually found her calling as a writer. Her literary pursuits were noteworthy, as she became a pioneering author, notably publishing one of the earliest books about sex in the internet age. This shift showcased her versatile and evolving interests beyond the realm of music and groupie culture. During the early 1970s, Cleo Odd went traveling across Europe and the Middle East, taking up modeling gigs along the way. However, her most compelling chapter unfolded during the late 1970s, when she found herself immersed in the hippie scene thriving in Anjuna, Goa, India. Her time there involved some intense experiences, including heavy involvement in cocaine and heroin, as well as engaging in international drug smuggling to finance her stay. Unfortunately, this led to a stint of 2 weeks behind bars. Later on, she penned down her experiences in her second book, Goa Freaks: My Hippie Years in India, using these vivid and sometimes harrowing encounters as the backbone of her narrative. The book captured the essence of that era, shedding light on the drug culture, free-spirited lifestyle, and the consequences of such adventurous pursuits. During her stay in India, Odd also explored the teachings of Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, following his philosophies for a while. Her book encapsulates this spiritual journey, interwoven with the captivating, albeit often dark, backdrop of the hippie culture prevalent in Goa at that time. In fact, she spent the last days of her life in Goa and passed away on March 26, 2001, in Goa, India. Number 5. Miss Christine. Christine Furka, known as Miss Christine, was a significant figure in the rock music scene of the late 60s and early 70s, part of the all-girl group GTOs in Los Angeles. She had close connections with famous musicians like Alice Cooper and Frank Zappa, appearing on album covers and embodying the era's glamour. Facing challenges due to severe scoliosis causing physical pain and embarrassment, she embraced the unconventional 60s counterculture lifestyle. Living in a bohemian commune, Christine and other girls mingled with musicians, making their mark in the music world. She worked closely with Frank Zappa and played a crucial role in the GTOs, influencing music and fashion. She also contributed to Alice Cooper's iconic transformation, but her life wasn't without struggles, notably battling drug addiction. Tragically, she passed away at the young age of 22 due to a drug overdose, leaving behind a legacy of fearless, unconventional spirit in the 60s and 70s music scene. Upon her arrival in Hollywood, Miss Christine ventured into the dynamic world of entertainment by joining Vito's Dancers, a renowned dance group. This move not only granted her recognition but also offered a pivotal role within the music realm. Her entry into the circle of Frank Zappa, a main figure in the music industry, set in motion the creation of the GTOs, a collective that became influential in shaping the music landscape and making a distinctive mark on album covers and artistic endeavors. Her personal life intertwined closely with the lives of notable musicians, creating a fascinating web of connections within the industry. However, throughout her experiences, Christine grappled with persistent health challenges stemming from her spinal deformity, scoliosis. Despite her determination and the corrective measures she underwent, her physical struggles persisted. Tragically, even after seeking treatment to rectify her health issues, Christine's life was cut short at the tender age of 22 due to a heartbreaking drug overdose. This untimely passing left behind a profound legacy, intricately woven into the fabric of the vibrant and dynamic music scene of the 60s and 70s. Her story continues to resonate as a poignant reminder of the highs and lows of that era, showcasing the challenges faced by those involved in the music industry and the tragic consequences that sometimes ensue. Number 6. Miss Cinderella. Miss Cinderella, whose real name was Cynthia Sue Wells, was a member of the legendary group known as the GTOs, aka Girls Together Outrageously. Born on January 26, 1952 in Los Angeles, California, she was recognized as the most reserved and least visible among the 7 GTOs. Her presence within the group was notable for her preference to shy away from the spotlight in the group's publicity material. Despite her inclination for a more low-profile role, Miss Cinderella's life was entwined with noteworthy events within the music scene of the era. In 1971, Miss Cinderella tied the knot with John Cale, a prominent figure within the celebrated band The Velvet Underground. However, their marital journey faced various difficulties, leading to its ultimate dissolution in 1975. Remarkably, in 1974, there arose a rumored affair between Miss Cinderella and Kevin Ayers, an occurrence that is believed to be indirectly mentioned or referenced in Cale's song titled Guts. This affair was purportedly influential or significant enough to find its way into Cale's musical expression during that period. Unexpectedly, Miss Cinderella's life took a tragic turn when she passed away in 1997. Surprisingly, her death remained relatively unknown until 2007 when Pamela Des Barres, another prominent figure in the groupie scene, mentioned it in her book, Let's Spend the Night Together. Pamela's account described Miss Cinderella's demise as shrouded in mysterious circumstances. Despite her relatively reserved public persona, her life and untimely passing remain a significant part of the crazy stories surrounding the music scene of that era. Number 7. Cathy Smith. Cathy Smith's life was a wild ride mixed with the colorful music scene, drug culture, and a devastating event that etched her name into rock history. She was born in 1950, and from an early age, Cathy was captivated by the music world. particularly by the performances of the Hawks, which later transformed into the renowned group The Band. She became associated with members like Rick Danko, Levon Helm, and Richard Manuel. There were rumors of her being romantically involved with Levon Helm, though he denied fathering her child. Kathy's life took a dramatic turn when she got involved in a turbulent relationship with singer-songwriter Gordon Lightfoot. Her involvement in the world of drugs, including heroin and cocaine, eventually led her into drug dealing, connecting her to celebrities, including the late John Belushi. Tragically, Kathy Smith became infamous for her role in the events leading up to Belushi's death. In 1982, she administered a fatal heroin and cocaine injection that ended the life of the comedic genius at the Chateau Marmont Hotel in Hollywood. Her admission of guilt in an interview and subsequent arrest led to her serving 15 months in prison on charges of involuntary manslaughter and drug-related offenses. After getting released, Smith had to deal with being sent back to Canada. Sadly, in September 2020, the British Columbia Coroner Service stated that she passed away in Maple Ridge. They didn't reveal the exact reasons. Kathy Smith's life story, filled with her ties to music legends and overshadowed by a tragic incident, remains an important but saddening part of the music and entertainment world's history. Number 8. Linda McCartney. Linda McCartney, born Linda Louise Eastman on September 24, 1941, was an American photographer, musician, and animal rights activist, and yes, also a groupie. While she was well known for her marriage to Paul McCartney of the Beatles, Linda had her own noteworthy achievements and talents. She initially gained recognition as a professional photographer, capturing candid and intimate images of the rock music scene in the 1960s. Her work became prominent due to her ability to capture the essence and personalities of various musicians, including the Beatles. Linda's distinct style and access to the music world enabled her to build a reputable career as a photographer. Beyond her professional success in photography, Linda McCartney shared her husband's passion for music. She joined Paul McCartney in his musical endeavors, contributing as a keyboardist and vocalist in his post-Beatles band Wings. Although initially criticized by some for her musical role, she gradually earned respect for her contributions to the band's sound and performance. Linda was also a committed vegetarian and animal rights advocate. She authored several vegetarian cookbooks and promoted a healthy vegetarian lifestyle through her recipes and advocacy work. Her dedication to animal welfare led to the establishment of the Linda McCartney Foods brand, offering a range of vegetarian and vegan food products. Tragically, Linda McCartney passed away on April 17, 1998, after battling breast cancer for several years. Her legacy lives on through her contributions to the fields of photography, music, vegetarianism, and animal rights activism, leaving a lasting impact on each. Linda's work continues to inspire and influence people worldwide. Number 9. Anita Penberg. Anita Penberg was more than a model or actress. She was a captivating personality that became deeply entwined with the rock and roll legends of her time. Born in 1942, she exuded a magnetic charm that drew her into the inner circle of the Rolling Stones during the mid-1960s. Her entry into the Stones' orbit came through guitarist Brian Jones, with whom she shared a tumultuous relationship marked by drug use and occasional violence. However, their love affair eventually transitioned to another Stone, Keith Richards. Penberg and Richards became a dynamic duo, a partnership that lasted for over a decade and produced 3 children. Anita Penberg's influence extended beyond mere companionship. She impacted the Stones' music, with Mick Jagger crediting her for inspiring him to remix tracks on the Beggars Banquet album. She even lent her voice as backing vocals on the iconic Sympathy for the Devil. Her connections to the Stones and her charismatic aura made her a significant figure within the music world. However, tragedy struck when Brian Jones, her former flame, passed away in 1969. Despite this, Penberg's contributions and significance remained firmly embedded in the fabric of rock history. Anita lived 75 years and passed away on the 13th of June 2017 due to complications caused by hepatitis C. Her captivating presence, significant impact on music, and her crucial role in the Stones' close circle established her as an iconic symbol of the rock and roll era. Her life stands as a captivating testament to the interwoven connections, fervors, and impacts within the music scene of the 60s and 70s. Number 10. Edie Sedwick. Edie Sedwick was another iconic figure in the 1960s New York City art scene and a prominent member of Andy Warhol's entourage of superstars. Born in Santa Barbara, California in 1943, she swiftly rose to fame through her association with Warhol and her appearances in his avant-garde films, such as Poor Little Rich Girl and Beauty Number 2. Her amazing aura, unconventional beauty, and magnetic presence catapulted her to become one of the central figures of the counterculture movement. Sedgwick's style, which included short hair, big earrings, and black tights, became iconic, setting trends that captivated the era. Despite her fast rise to fame, Edie faced numerous challenges in her personal life. Struggles with mental health issues and addiction plagued her throughout her adult life. She grappled with the pressures of fame and the chaotic lifestyle of New York's artistic elite. Sedgwick's life took a tragic turn, and her downfall was swift. In 1966, she decided to distance herself from Warhol and his factory scene, hoping to pursue her acting career independently. However, her efforts were thwarted by personal demons, leading to a spiral of drug addiction and tumultuous relationships. On November 15, 1971, Sedgwick's life came to an abrupt and tragic end. At the young age of 28, she passed away due to a fatal drug overdose in her apartment in New York City. Her untimely death marked the premature end of promising talent and left an indelible mark on the cultural landscape of the 1960s counterculture movement. Edie Sedgwick's legacy endures through her impact on fashion, art, and her role as an iconic figure of that vibrant era. Number 11. Toni Kitan. Toni Kitan, born Julie Kitan on August 5, 1961, was an American actress and media personality primarily recognized for her appearances in 1980s music videos and various television shows and films. She gained widespread attention through her roles in music videos for rock bands like Whitesnake. One of her most notable appearances was in Whitesnake's Here I Go Again video, where she danced provocatively on the hood of a car. This iconic performance made her a symbol of that era's rock music scene. Beyond her work in music videos, Kitan had acting roles in television and film. She made appearances in films such as Bachelor Party, 1984, The Perils of Gwendolyn in the Land of the Yik Yak, 1984, and Witchboard, 1986. She also graced several TV series with guest appearances, including Hercules, The Legendary Journeys, and the new WKRP in Cincinnati. However, despite her magnetic presence on screen and in music videos throughout the 1980s, Kitan grappled with personal challenges, battling substance abuse issues later in her life. Sadly, she passed away on May 7, 2021 at the age of 59. Number 12. Nancy Spungen. Nancy Spungen was a troubled figure and a pivotal part of punk rock history, mainly remembered for her rocky relationship with Sid Vicious, the bassist for the Sex Pistols. Born on February 27, 1958 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Nancy led a troubled life marked by early-onset mental health issues and a rebellious nature. Her journey into the world of punk rock began when she moved to New York City and immersed herself in its vibrant music scene. Nancy's persona and intensity made her stand out, and it wasn't long before she crossed paths with the Sex Pistols. At 17, Spungen left her home and ventured to New York City. Initially, she sustained herself by engaging in sex work, dabbling in amateur music journalism, and working odd jobs at clothing stores. In her leisure time, she immersed herself in the world of rock music, becoming a dedicated groupie, avidly following bands like Aerosmith, Bad Company, the New York Dolls, and the Ramones. In December 1976, Spungen journeyed to London with the Heartbreakers, where she crossed paths with the Sex Pistols, including bassist Sid Vicious, on her inaugural night in the city. Following their encounter, Spungen and Vicious swiftly became cohabiting partners in March of the subsequent year. Their relationship, spanning 19 rocky months from March 1977 to October 1978, was marred by the intensification of drug use, particularly heroin. Vicious was already grappling with multiple substance abuse prior to meeting Spunt. In the eyes of tabloids, Spunt earned the moniker Nauseating Nancy owing to her frequent public confrontations. Following the dissolution of the Sex Pistols in January 1978, Spunt and Vicious relocated to New York, taking up residence at Hotel Chelsea. They occupied room 100 under the guise of Mr. and Mrs. John Simon Ritchie, Vicious's real name. Tragically, on October 12, 1978, Nancy Spungen's life met a harrowing end at the Chelsea Hotel in New York City. She was found dead with a fatal stab wound to the abdomen. Sid Vicious was arrested and charged with her murder, though he died of a heroin overdose before standing trial. The circumstances surrounding her death remain a subject of speculation and controversy. Nancy Spungen's life and death are emblematic of the darker, more chaotic side of the punk rock era. Her lasting impact is closely tied to the legendary status of the Sex Pistols and the turbulent relationship she had with Sid Vicious. Number 13. JoJo Lane. JoJo Lane, born Joanne LaPetrie on July 13, 1953 in Danvers, Massachusetts, was also a prominent figure in the world of music and entertainment. She was an American singer, model, and actress known for her charismatic presence and multi-talented endeavors. Her life was intricately connected to the rock and roll scene, and she gained recognition due to her relationships with various iconic artists of her time, including Jim Morrison and Jimi Hendrix. JoJo's magnetic personality and youthful allure attracted her to the inner circles of rock legends. Her distinctive look, often featuring waist-length dark auburn hair, added to her appeal, making her a notable figure in the modeling world as well. JoJo's romantic history was marked by connections with renowned musicians like Rod Stewart, Jim Morrison, and Jimi Hendrix. She also engaged in relationships with members of bands like Roxy Music and the Jake Isles Band. Lane's musical collaborations extended to working with Sting and Andy Summers from The Police on her Pie Records single Hulk, featuring Dancing Man as the B-side. While there's speculation that the Police musicians contributed solely to the A-side, Lane also teamed up with Ray Fenwick from the group Fancy to form JoJo Lane and the Firm, releasing tracks for Mercury Records. Her connections in the music scene were extensive, counting members of Led Zeppelin among her friends. Legend has it that when Jimmy Page proposed the name The Firm, Lane supposedly didn't oppose the choice. She had a romantic involvement with producer Jimmy Miller from 1986 to 1988, during which he produced several of her recordings. One notable piece was a rendition of Hermit's hit, I'm Into Something Good, which Lane revamped as I'm In for Something Good. In 1986, Lane took on managerial responsibilities for the British group The Manish Boys, simultaneously performing with the Boston-based band Gear. From 1991 to 1996, Lane and her children resided on the estate of Alexander Thynne, 7th Marquess of Bath. Due to her active involvement in the rock and roll lifestyle, JoJo Lane experienced health challenges, particularly epilepsy, which forced her to reflect on her past choices. Tragically, JoJo Lane faced a devastating diagnosis of liver cancer in 2003, prompting her to express regret over her turbulent past. On October 29, 2006, Lane passed away after sustaining a head injury from a fall down a flight of stairs. She was only 53 years old at the time of her death. Number 14. Sable Star. Sable Star, starting at the young age of 11, attended concerts around Los Angeles with older friends who had left school. At just 12, she claimed to have lost her virginity to Spirit guitarist Randy California, followed by an encounter with Iggy Pop when she was 13, mentioned in his song Look Away. Star boasted connections with prominent musicians like David Bowie, Robert Plant, Jimmy Page, and Johnny Thunders, even dubbing herself the best among local groupies in a candid interview for Star magazine in 1973. She was part of the early 1970s wave of baby groupies frequenting the Rainbow Bar and Grill, Whiskey A Go-Go, and Rodney Bingenheimer's English Disco on the Sunset Strip, often photographed with renowned rockers for magazines like Cream and Rock Scene. Despite her involvement in the music scene, Star lived with her family and attended Palos Verdes High School. In interviews, Star detailed fights with rival groupies and her close friendship with fellow groupies Shrey Mecham and Queenie. Model Bebe Buell acknowledged her as a prominent figure, stating that every rock star visiting Los Angeles wanted to meet her. At 16, Star ran away to New York City with Johnny Thunders from the New York Dolls. However, their relationship was tumultuous due to Thunders' violent behavior and drug addiction. She faced abuse and ultimately had an abortion after refusing Thunders' proposal. Feeling emotionally dismantled by the experience, she returned to Los Angeles, expressing that Thunders had changed her identity and destroyed the essence of Sable Star. In the early 1980s, she distanced herself from the groupie scene and made visits to New York, where she had a relationship with Richard Hell, befriended Nancy Spungen, and immersed herself in the emerging punk rock scene. However, as years passed, Sable Star opted for a quieter, more private life. She eventually settled in the Reno area, where she lived with her partner and raised 2 children. For 16 years, she worked at a local casino resort, embracing a lifestyle far removed from the spotlight of her earlier years. Tragically, in April 2009, Sable Star's life came to a sorrowful end as she succumbed to a battle with a brain tumor. She was 51 years old at the time of her passing. Number 15. Cynthia Doll. Cynthia Doll, born Cynthia Megan Loya on March 12, 1971, and known in some circles as Cindy Doll, made an enduring impact on the realm of lo-fi music and fanzine culture. Her creative path comprised music, photography, and an unflinching embrace of transgressive aesthetics, solidifying her status as a notable figure in the 1990s underground scene. Hailing from Roseville, California, Cynthia's artistic journey intertwined with her then-boyfriend Bill Callahan, operating under his former stage name, Smog. Her introduction to Smog's music occurred on the B-side track Wine-Stained Lids as part of the 1994 hit 7-inch single, marking the genesis of her musical journey. Continuing her musical contributions, Cynthia lent her vocals and guitar to Smog's projects, including the Burning Kingdom EP, Wild Love, and The Doctor Came at Dawn. Her involvement extended to touring with Smog in the US and Europe in 1995. By 1996, Cynthia ventured into her solo career, releasing her debut album, Untitled. Notably, the initial pressing of the LP omitted the artist's name on the sleeve, though it was later added for subsequent reprints. Untitled showcased her musical prowess, featuring engineering work by Jim O'Rourke and contributions from Bill Callahan on guitar and vocals. In 1998, Cynthia expanded her musical presence by lending her vocals to a remix of Torture Day by the Not West. The year 2002 witnessed the release of her second album, Sound Restores Young Man, recorded by Jim O'Rourke and Tim Green of the Champs, exemplifying her ever-evolving artistic journey. Apart from her creative endeavors, Cynthia grappled with epilepsy and was actively involved in political activism in Sacramento, assisting citizens in registering to vote. Tragically, Cynthia Doll passed away at her Sacramento residence on April 5, 2012. Her record label noted that she was in the process of working on demos for a new album before her untimely death. Number 16. Connie Hamy. Connie Hamy was born to Joetta and Winfred Hamy. Renowned for her alleged encounters with various bands passing through Little Rock, she made headlines with her purported groupie escapades, detailed in a 1974 Cosmopolitan profile and later in a tell-all article for Penthouse in 1992. Musicians referenced her in songs such as Grand Funk Railroad's We're an American Band, the Guess Who's Pleasin' for Reason, and Cheap Trick's Standing on the Edge album title track. In 1995, she published her memoir titled Rock Groupie: The Intimate Adventures of Sweet Connie from Little Rock. Her fame escalated when she asserted that in 1984, an Arkansas state trooper approached her on behalf of Bill Clinton, suggesting they looked for a private area but couldn't locate one. Nonetheless, conflicting narratives surfaced as George Stephanopoulos recounted Clinton's side, claiming Hamy had approached him in a suggestive manner in a hotel lobby. This account was backed by affidavits from witnesses. Connie Hamy appeared on The Howard Stern Show twice, in 1991 and 2010, and also sought to run as an independent candidate for the United States House of Representatives from Arkansas's 2nd Congressional District in 1996, but didn't appear on the general election ballot. Her life was chronicled in an Insomniac with Dave Attell episode in Little Rock. Connie Hamy passed away on August 21, 2021, after a brief illness in a hospital in her hometown. Number 17. Barbara Cope. Barbara Cope, famously known as the Butter Queen, gained attention for her intriguing connections to numerous rock stars and musicians in the 1960s and 1970s. Originating from Dallas in 1965, she quickly became a familiar figure in the rock scene, attending concerts and establishing close relationships with renowned musicians. Cope's fascinating escapades led her into the inner circles of iconic rock bands, including interactions with members of the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and other prominent groups. Her notable rendezvous reportedly involved entertaining musicians with unusual antics involving butter, earning her the moniker the Butter Queen. One remarkable mention of Barbara Cope in rock history occurred during a Led Zeppelin concert in Texas in 1973. The band's lead singer, Robert Plant, famously mentioned the Butter Queen during the show, cementing her legendary status among music aficionados. Despite her intriguing interactions and connections with rock stars, Cope decided to retire from the music scene at the young age of 22. Subsequently, she returned to a more private life in her hometown of Dallas. Tragically, in January 2018, Barbara Cope faced a devastating fire at her home in Dallas and, unfortunately, could not escape in time. Her lifeless body was discovered near the front porch. This unfortunate incident marked the end of the legendary figure known as the Butter Queen in the rock and roll lore. Barbara Cope passed away at the age of 67. Number 18. Nico. Nico, born Christa Pafkin on October 16, 1938 in Cologne, Germany, was a multifaceted artist recognized for her captivating presence in the music and art scenes. Initially gaining prominence as a fashion model, she transitioned into the world of music and became an integral part of the avant-garde movement. Her breakthrough moment occurred when she collaborated with Andy Warhol and the Velvet Underground, joining the band for its first live performance in the mid-1960s. Her deep, haunting vocals and her enigmatic stage persona brought a unique allure to the band's music. After her time with the Velvet Underground, Nico ventured into a solo career, performing regularly at the Dom in New York City. Her shows featured various guitarists, including Velvet Underground members Tim Hardin, Tim Buckley, Ramblin' Jack Elliott, and Jackson Browne. Her debut album, Chelsea Girl, released in 1967, comprised songs by Bob Dylan, Tim Hardin, and Jackson Browne, with contributions from members of the Velvet Underground. Despite their involvement, Nico expressed disappointment with the album's production, feeling it deviated from her vision. During her time in California, Nico spent moments with Jim Morrison of The Doors, who encouraged her to write her own music. In 1968, she released The Marble Index, where she took control of lyrics and music. John Cale arranged the album, incorporating Nico's harmonium, marking a significant shift in her sound and image. Her appearance, including her dyed red hair and attire, foreshadowed the emerging Gothic rock scene. During the early 1970s, Nico resumed live performances, notably in Amsterdam and London, where she and John Cale supported Pink Floyd. A reunion concert with Cale and Lou Reed occurred in Paris in 1972. Throughout the 1970s, Nico released two more solo albums, Desert Shore and The End, where she took on multiple roles, including writing music, singing, and playing the harmonium. Collaborations with John Cale, Brian Eno, Phil Manzanera, and others marked these albums. In parallel with her music, Nico appeared in several films directed by Philippe Garrel, becoming a significant part of his cinematic and personal circles. Her involvement in Garrel's films spanned from the early 1970s to the late 1970s, showcasing her diverse talents beyond music. Despite her creative output, Nico encountered disputes with Island Records, leading to her departure from the label in 1975. During this period, she formed a musical connection with Berliner musician Lutz Ulbrich, guitarist for Ash Ra Temple, who accompanied her at many concerts. Nico's public image gradually shifted to her natural brown hair color and a consistent black wardrobe, Beyond her work with the Velvet Underground, Nico embarked on a successful solo career. Her solo albums, such as Chelsea Girl and The Marble Index, showcased her hauntingly beautiful voice and experimental approach to music. Nico's distinctive style incorporated elements of folk, avant-garde, and neoclassical sounds, earning her a place as a pioneering figure in the genre. Despite her musical success, Nico's life was tumultuous, marked by struggles with addiction and personal challenges. Tragically, her life was cut short when, on July 18, 1988, during a holiday on the Spanish island of Ibiza, she suffered a fatal head injury from a bicycle accident. Initially misdiagnosed, she faced difficulties gaining admission to local hospitals. Eventually, X-rays revealed a severe cerebral hemorrhage, which ultimately led to her untimely death at the age of 49. Number 19. Moren. Moren Starky Tigrett, originally Mary Cox, born on August 4, 1946 in Liverpool, England, remains a significant figure in the Beatles' legacy as the cherished first wife of Ringo Starr, the iconic drummer of the band. Known affectionately as Mo among her friends, Moren embarked on a career in hairdressing after leaving school at the young age of 14. She officially adopted the name Moren in January 1965 at the age of 18, embracing a new chapter in her life. Her journey took a pivotal turn when she discovered she was pregnant, and in a time when societal norms were less accepting of unwed mothers, Moren and Ringo decided to marry on February 11, 1965, at the Caxton Hall Registry Office in London. Brian Epstein, the Beatles' manager, served as the best man, and the reception was held at Brian's residence. The couple welcomed their first child, Lee, in 1970. However, as the 1970s progressed, their marriage faced challenges. Ringo's infidelity and struggles with alcoholism strained their relationship, and the eventual dissolution of the Beatles in 1970 marked the beginning of the end of their marriage. Tragedy struck later in Moren's life when, during the opening of the House of Blues, she fainted. Initially diagnosed with mild anemia, her condition worsened significantly. In October 1994, she was diagnosed with myelodysplasia, a form of leukemia, and was admitted to the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center. Despite the valiant efforts of dedicated physicians, Moren Starky Tigrett succumbed to leukemia on December 30, 1994, at the age of 48. Number 20. Miss Mercy. Miss Mercy, whose real name was Judith Peters, began her journey in the 1960s when she was just 15 years old. Leaving her family home, she went to San Francisco, where she underwent a big transformation. She chose the name Miss Mercy after a song she liked and developed a unique fashion style influenced by her friends in a band called the Charlatans. In a short time, she found herself hanging out with famous rock stars like Brian Jones and Keith Richards from the Rolling Stones. Her circle of friends expanded to include people like Christine Furka, who worked with Frank Zappa. When Zappa invited her to join a band he was putting together called the GTOs, she jumped at the chance. Miss Mercy came up with the name for their only album, Permanent Damage, leaving her mark on the group. After her time with the GTOs, Miss Mercy continued to mix and collaborate with big names in music like Graham Parsons, Jimi Hendrix, Arthur Lee of Love, and guitarist Sugi Otis, whom she briefly married. Unfortunately, in July 2020, her friend and fellow bandmate Pamela DeBarge announced on Instagram that Miss Mercy had passed away. Judith Peters, who had faced health struggles for a while, said goodbye at the age of 71. And with that, we are done for today. Keep watching for more such videos. We will see you all in the next one.